Hey, Smart Authors, welcome back to another episode of the Smart Author Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Everett O'Keefe of Ignite Press, and he actually gave us 17 reasons why you should have a book and what it can do to benefit your business. Besides that, we spoke about a bunch of other things like the benefits of Amazon print on demand and some certain strategies that you can implement there, why you should give your book away for free if you can, and a whole other range of topics. So I really think you'll get a lot out of this episode if you want to learn how you can write your book fast, if you want to learn some of the benefits that you may not have thought about from why you should have a book for your business as an expert, if you want to learn about some of the strategies people are using for print on demand, and things around giving your book away for free. So fantastic conversation here. Everett is also giving away a free copy of his book, which you'll find in the show notes below. So I hope you enjoy today's episode, and I can't wait to hear what you think. Hey, Everett, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Chris. This is super cool.
So Everett runs Ignite Press and has some really cool accolades and processes around writing and launching books. But before we get into that kind of stuff, Everett, can you give me a brief background to yourself and how you kind of got into this space?
I can, but first let me say I feel like I know you already, having listened to your voice on some of your podcast episodes and stuff. So this is super cool. So we founded Ignite Press about 10 years ago. We had the joy of publishing over 150 Amazon bestsellers so far. And we're really enjoying this journey working with business executives, coaches, consultants, speakers to get their thoughts and books into the market to help build their brand. I didn't set out to go into publishing. I thought I was going to be an English teacher, did an English degree, was working on a master's degree when I got kind of sucked into the business world, and never thought I would go back into anything to do with my degree until a friend and I started a marketing company back in 2006, 2007. And then we started looking into publishing as a marketing tool in 2012, 2013. And now here I find myself the owner of a publishing company. I would have never dreamed that was going to happen, but pretty stoked it has.
Very cool. And Ignite Press, what style of publishing do you guys focus on?
Yeah, so we're a hybrid publisher, which for your listeners, benefit means we sit in between traditional and self-publishing. We basically feel like we embrace the best of both worlds. Mm-hmm. We all know that traditional publishing is very hard to crack into. And even when you do, it has some major downsides, like selling your IP, losing ownership of it and creative control, and your book taking too long to come to market and costing too much to buy yourself, and you getting almost nothing when your books are sold, etc.
Yep.
And self-publishing is amazing because you have all that creative control and ownership, and you get your books at cost and all of that. But, you also have to do everything. And if you screw up any one part of it, then the whole thing can be a disappointment. So we sit in between. We provide professional editing, cover design, layout, publishing, and Amazon bestseller launch. And it really seems to go great with our clients who recognize they don't have the time or inclination to want to learn everything about publishing to do themselves. They may DIY some things in their lives, but they also know that there's sometimes not to do it yourself. And those are our clients.
Yeah, I love that. So, essentially the hybrid publishing model, I think, is like my favorite now at this stage. At the end of the day, like, it is a worthy trade-off, paying for a service like that, because you're saving so much time, and then not what goes into a book launch and what goes into book publishing and editing. It's like, that is a maze in itself, and takes, you've been doing it for over 10 years, like it takes a lot of time for you to get processes and understandings down. And most of the time, like, you have to learn it from really, really successful people, because it is a little bit convoluted.
Yeah, and I think that there are two things really come to mind. One is you spend all this time writing a book. You don't want to screw anything up, right? There's that pressure of, man, I don't want this to be a disappointment just because I didn't hire the right layout guy or we made the wrong choice when it came to launches or something, right? Any little thing. So you really don't want that, and the other part, if you're going to do it right, let's do it and let's get impact out of it, both impact with the message and impact in the business. So yeah, I mean that's kind of where we sit, and for some people they are DIY people, and that's great. Our first book we did self-publishing. Totally a fan of self-publishing,
Mm-hmm.
but for the business executive, for the business, honestly, for the successful business person, they probably don't have time to DIY everything and do it right.
Yeah. 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 100% agree. So you've got a process to launch books called the rapid book method. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, and I'm to give credit where credit is due. This is something I learned from a couple of my coaches, Mike Koenigs and Ed Rush. And I think to do this particular method, you really want to embrace the fact that you are writing as the author and as a business owner, et cetera. You are writing a book, not the book. Okay, you are writing
Mm,
a book that's going to be utilized in your marketing. It is not the book necessarily that is going to define your legacy. Okay, so it doesn't need to be your opus. And so this is just the FAQ SAQ book is what I would call it. And basically we all have these questions that we're always asked in our industry, no matter what it is, that we get asked all the time, and we can just rattle those questions off, the answers to those questions off really quickly. So if you're a financial advisor, it's like, what is compound interest? What is a mutual fund? What is an annuity? There can be a whole ton of questions like that. And or where are those things appropriate? Okay. And if you're a financial advisor, I know I could plop a microphone down in front of you, ask you that question, and you could dictate easily 5 or 10 minutes as an answer for that. Well, if you can sit down and write the frequently asked questions of your business, and then follow that by adding questions people should be asking, like if they just knew more, then you can just record or type it if you want, but you can use your phone or whatever and record your response to that question that you already have in your head. And very quickly, each one of those can become a short chapter in your book. It is such a fast way to get a useful book into the market. And we've seen that be successful over and over and over again. And so for those people who just don't want to sit down and do it the old fashioned way of, chapter at a time, paragraph at a time, whatever, that frequently asked questions and should have asked questions model, it can be really effective.
mm. And do you go through the process to edit that to add like more story elements and things on top of the FAQ, SAQ?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned story, because I think that is a really important element to add in once you're done. When I wrote my one of my books, The Power of the Published, I started writing it with in mind, okay, I'm going to just write about all the different benefits of owning, of having a book. And as I started doing it, I went, man, this is so boring. Like, who's going to want to read this? And so then I just sat down and I went, okay, for each one of these benefits that I'm talking about, I need a story. And so it was, as easy as looking to the stories of my clients or to the stories of people in my mastermind group and others that I've come into contact with to kind of reinsert those. Now, I'll tell you that most of the books that we publish, Chris, they're usually coming to us with a manuscript that's more or less complete. And we take it the rest of the way. We go ahead and provide copy editing and layout, cover design, launch, etc. But if someone comes to us and they know they need a book, but they don't know what it is, then some of these strategies can be really helpful, and or connecting them with a terrific book coach or ghostwriter where those things are appropriate.
Yeah. And so you mentioned your book, The Power of the Published. Shameless plug for Everett, mypodcastperk.com. That'll be in the show notes as well. You can go get a free copy of his book, and I'll make sure I mention that at the end of the episode as well.
Thank you, Chris.
Um,
There's no
yeah, no,
shameless plug on a podcast, I mean, there just isn't.
no, I agree. I mean, it's more value. It's like tremendous. I'm so stoked that you're giving that away. Like it's going to be incredibly valuable for our listeners. So, when it comes to a book, I've had so many different guests on, and I get their perspectives on why a book is so powerful. I'd love to know from your perspective, why do you think a book is something that every business professional should have?
Yeah, I mean, hey, I wrote a book on the topic, right? I might have a couple ideas. What's great, books strike at so many different levels for people. And, one thing that people forget is that when you put a book in someone's hand, of course, that is screaming, your credibility, your authority, your expertise. But if someone actually starts to read your book, think about it. There is no other opportunity, I think, for you to speak directly into someone's brain, and then to do it for hours, at a time often when where their defenses just really aren't up. It's before they go to bed, or maybe it's on the toilet or on vacation or whatever it is, right? And you're speaking directly into their brain. There is no other opportunity you will have outside of a very extensive one-on-one coaching time that you'll be able to ever communicate like that to your client. In fact, most businesses never have the time to spend like that with their client. So I think that is something completely unique to books. But I put together a list of things because I think that the book is the closest thing you can get to a silver bullet in marketing.
Yep.
Everyone's always looking for that silver bullet, that thing that's going to work for everybody, right? The book is the closest thing. And so I'm going to run through a quick list. Some of these you'll go, oh yeah, of course. And others you're going to go, maybe I hadn't thought of that one. So it provides instant authority, helps qualify you for speaking and media opportunities, provide long-deserved recognition for your work in your industry, place you among an elite group of people who have authored a book, eliminate competition, provide the ultimate stick method to help customers remain customers, provide a durable marketing tool to continually reinforce your credentials and experience, provide valuable social proof that you know what the heck you're talking about, serve as the influential whisperer that provides advice to your prospects and clients, allow you to increase your fees and provide justification for this increase, provide access to higher value clients and more profitable opportunities. We're running out of fingers there. Create perfect clients who are attuned to the way you work, attract the right clients and repel the wrong ones, predispose your clients to accept your recommendations, and increase your own confidence and internal posture. What did we get to? I never actually counted them.
15.
15. All right. 15. That's not so bad.
That's a great list.
Yeah. Any of those surprise you? The last podcast I was on, they were like stick method. What the heck is that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they read your book, they become a client. It's like they trust your process, like they're like, I want that, So, yeah, definitely raising fees and having that stick rate and like the client's trust in your process is something that, like, obviously it's there at the back of my mind, but I never like really thought about that. So,
yeah. One of the things I think that people never really think about is just creating better clients. We tend to think of books as bringing us new clients, and they do. And they convert them faster, which I actually don't think that's another benefit I didn't put in the book, right? Shorten the sales cycle, which was the subject of your last podcast episode, right?
It was.
Actually. Books shorten the sales cycle. They make your prospects become customers faster because they trust you. But also, if you're going to create new clients, why not also create better clients? And they'll become better
Mm.
clients because they learn your recommendations in the book. They learn to trust you. And if you intentionally seed your book with stories of clients who did not follow your lead, then your prospect, soon to be customer, learns, oh, wait, these are the places where things go off the rail if I don't follow Chris's recommendations. And therefore,
Mm.
I better follow Chris's recommendations. So if you're using a book to
Wow.
create new clients, why not also create better clients?
Mm. I love that. And I'm always touting that a book is like the number one marketing asset for you to get clients. It's and I actually had this conversation with a new client of mine, and they were turning on their book ads, they were turning off their book ads because they were launching like their challenge or like a live summit, and things like this. And they're just like, oh, we feel so jumbled because we're always just consistently on and off, on and off. And I just gave them some perspective, and said, books aren't just conversion assets. They are branding assets, they're authority assets. And the benefit of running book ads and marketing a book all the time is that if you're running this summit or this challenge and someone sees that you have a book as an additional ad, then it's like, what's the likelihood of them coming back and going, wow, actually, no, I will take up their offer of the summit, or I'll join their challenge. It's
Which, of
probably
course,
going to be higher
is
because
the more
they've seen.
valuable selection, right? I mean, that's the
Yeah,
reason you're doing the book, is to get them into those other things anyway.
yeah. It's the gateway essentially, and all of the conversion metrics on the back end lead to those things regardless. But I just prompted that thought to them, and they're like, "Wow, no one's like actually explained cold advertising in that way where it's evergreen." Because they just thought that they couldn't have two offers out in the marketplace at once because they would cannibalize each other.
Well, and we're taught that, right? We're taught that, oh, a marketing email needs to have one goal. A page on a website needs to have one action. So we're taught a lot of that when it comes to the marketing, but a book is a constant reinforcement of any other thing you're doing,
Mm.
right? It's the force multiplier, right? It makes those other things, that much more effective. And there's another section in my book where I talk about the power of the unread book, right? How powerful is the book that's never read? It's
Mm.
incredibly powerful because all they have to do is see your name on that cover. All they have to do is know you wrote a book. They don't even necessarily have to know what the book is about. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be a good book on the inside for them to be influenced by what they see on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and uh, and then, of course, Chris, you're a big fan of this. Books just never get thrown away, right? They just, like, they sit on a desk. If they sit in a bookshelf or on a nightstand or whatever, as a constant reinforcement of your authority and your expertise.
Mm.
And even when we do finally get to the point where we're going to dispose of books, which probably happens every few years at most for most people. What do? We can give them to used bookstores or the library or whatever, right? Or we give them to other people, whatever. There's so many things powerful and special about books.
Yeah, this is funny because I literally, after 11 years, just gave away about a dozen books. This is like probably the first time I've done that, and it's just like, oh, here's all the books that weren't really, really impactful for me. I've got packing boxes behind me because we're about to move house, and I've got a huge big box just full of boxes that probably weighs 30, 40 kilos, like 50 to 60
Holy
pounds.
cow.
Um, so I feel sorry for my movers. But like, you're so right, and I didn't throw them in the bin. I gave them to a salvo store, which is like a secondhand store, and I donated them. And I just think that allows for them to live on, and someone's going to see the Robert Kiyosaki book, and then that's going to build Robert Kiyosaki's brand, even though it's in a salvo store.
Absolutely. It is the most durable marketing tool ever created, right? You
Mm-hmm.
think about it. We're reading books now that are thousands of years old. Um,
Mm.
and, and as much as you and I love podcasts, 100 years from now, podcasts aren't going to be the thing. I don't know what the thing's going to
Mhm.
be, but books are still going to be around. Like they're still going to be around. I promise.
We'll just be like implanting them with like an
Yeah,
SD card in our head or
it,
something at
right.
that
Yeah,
point.
it'll be download straight into the cerebral cortex or something.
You
Man,
don't even have to read the book; it's just like downloaded.
that'd be a lot easier, wouldn't it?
Oh man, yeah. Well, I feel like audiobooks today are kind of like that because you can just like switch off and kind of download it. It's pretty
That's
cool.
right. They just take time, unless I can only listen to them about 1.5, maybe 1.25 speed. I can't
Yeah,
speed
okay.
them up any faster and follow.
It depends how technical it is. I can do two most books, and then if it's like really technical, I'll slow it down to 1.5.
Okay, I'm impressed.
Yep.
I'm really impressed. Well, that's because you're younger than I am. Your brain works faster.
Okay. Well, I've actually been training myself with primarily non-fiction content on YouTube. Every single video or audio piece that I listen to that's non-fiction is a two times speed
Okay.
for several years, like 4 or 5 years now.
Okay. Yeah, that would train you.
Hmm.
Wow.
So
Well,
it's
there's
kind of
a
easy
hack.
now.
There's a hack. There's a hack that people need to know if they want to be able to consume more content, start getting used to listening to it faster.
Yeah, and actually, Alex Hormozy shared this when he did his $100 million leads book, and he said if you read the book and listen to it at the same time, that is incredible for comprehension.
Yeah, in fact, I marked that page in his book and I went, that needs to be in every book we do.
Hmm.
We need to be starting adding that page as a feature. We do audiobooks as well, so it would make
Yep.
sense to have that. So
And a cool add-on as well is like when you go and buy a Kindle today, you can actually add audible narration on for it's usually $5 or less.
yeah,
And so as you're reading the Kindle, you can actually listen to it and it will highlight words as you're reading. So it actually makes reading easier because you're listening to it. You don't have to think about what you're reading. You just hear it and follow the words. So I usually do that that 1-2 combo if I'm getting new books.
well, and then also just the ability to switch from audio to reading and vice versa. So you're hit the audio during your commute, but then go back to reading it in the evening, and then hit the audio when you're going out for a walk, and then
Yep.
go back to the reading portion. That's really amazing.
Hmm. Yeah. So obviously you are a big fan of giving away your books, hence the podcast perk. Um, you often say that sometimes you make more money by giving your book away. Can you explain your thoughts behind that and what you've experienced?
Yeah, for a lot of people, who have speaking or presentation opportunities, or just meeting one on one with a potential prospect of your business, that book that you give away, I don't know what your lifetime, everyone's got their own market and lifetime value of a client, though very few people have ever sat down to figure out what the lifetime
Hmm.
value of a client truly is in their business. But for many people, that lifetime value of a client is, let's 4 digits, 5 digits, perhaps 6 digits.
Hmm.
And and you think about selling a book and the royalty, even a great royalty on a book is $8 or $9, which is
Yep.
phenomenal. That's a phenomenal royalty, right, Chris? And that's something, fortunately, that we can tap into on print on demand. But that still pales in comparison to that 4, 5, 6 digit ROI from giving your book away. And so I encourage my clients to look for every opportunity they can to give a book away.
Hmm.
Um, and that could be as simple as, yes, of course, putting it in the hands of prospects, using it in place of a business card. I mean, that's incredibly effective. Um, Working it into every presentation that you do. Like we've talked about the power of the publish now a couple times, and that people can get it for free at mypodcastperk.com.
Hmm.
That exact type thing is the same thing anybody should be doing whenever they appear on podcasts or speaking. There should always be some mechanism for people to get your book. Now, some people will do a free plus shipping,
Hmm.
thing, and that's cool. I think that's great as well. I also love the idea. I mean, heck, I think of the last ClickFunnels conference I went to. I think they gave everyone a copy of Ryan Holiday's book, and it
Hmm.
was about 5,000 seats. Okay, so
Yep.
there are about 5,000 copies sitting on chairs at that conference, and at that volume, those books probably cost maybe a couple bucks each.
Yep.
And would you spend, in his case, $10,000 to put your book in front of 5,000 prospects? That doesn't sound
Yep.
so bad. Of course, they were also doing a bestseller launch technique with that, and that kind of fingered in with that. But that's a whole nother story. But you should be looking for every opportunity to put your book in people's hands, whether that's you've paid for it or they've paid for it, or the event organizer or conference has paid for it.
Yep.
That you'll, as far as I'm concerned, you'll get way more that way than selling them back of room where maybe you're going to sell copies to 10 or 20% of the audience. Why not get
Mm.
a copy in front of 100% of the audience?
Yep. Yep. No, I love that. And I think Eric Thale also gave his book away by his own organization. So, yeah, I think it's a powerful strategy, and especially we didn't mention advertising specifically, but especially with advertising, it's such a good offer. And I've got clients where we do free plus shipping. I've got clients where we do digital free, so it's just an opt in,
Yep.
and both work phenomenally well. Both generate tremendous leads. We have, on the free digital version, a little bit lower of a quality of a lead. They might not ever read your book, but again, as we discussed, they don't need to. And beyond that, um, I just think that the benefits of getting so many more copies out there because of the offer that is being presented far outweighs the extra $10 you'll make by selling the book.
Yeah.
And you'll probably your volume will be 3 to 5 times higher just giving the book away versus trying to sell the book for full price.
Case in point, Ryan Holiday's book. I have read just a little of it. I would not have bought it in the midst of the event,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it's been wandering around my desk now for a long time, and so it's continuing to reinforce his name and his expertise, right? And that's a free book and the power of essentially the unread book there. And I like what
Mm.
you said about free plus shipping, also digital only. One of the things that I do with mine is if people do the mypodcastperk.com, they get the digital version, but at the same time, it's giving them an option to go buy the Kindle or the paperback. And some people will do that. They get there and they go, yeah, I'd like to have the PDF, but yeah, I'd really like to have the book. Let me go get the physical one.
Mm-hmm.
And of course that's a lead, right? It's now somebody I can follow up with. They can follow up with
Yep.
me, etc. And this is one of the things I love about what you're doing with your clients, Chris, is you're kind of coaching them through and taking them through lots of these different strategies that fits their brand and their target market.
Yep. Yep. 100%. And everything's customized for each client. So, we've kind of gotten to a point where we've done every offer you can think of for books at this stage and at least tried it. I think the offer is like the number one driver behind, obviously you have to have a good book first, but the next thing beyond that is that's the next driving metric behind whether the book sells with advertising or not. So, I've just tested a lot of things at this point.
Hey, the split testing, right? And the great value of it.
Yep, 100%. Everett, do you have anything else for the listeners that you want to give as like a piece of advice or wisdom?
Yeah, some people understand the power of print on demand publishing, and some people that's a new phrase for them. And I would reinforce for people, take advantage of print on demand. And for those people who don't know, that simply means that Amazon doesn't hold your book. They don't warehouse your book. They just warehouse the files for your book. And so when someone orders your book tomorrow morning, Amazon prints and ships that one copy of the book. It is a
Mm,
modern day miracle. And this has several advantages. One, it's incredibly affordable. Most books the author copy cost or the print cost might be $3 or $4 a copy. Having no standing inventory also means that if you need to make a change to your book, you can do that. If you need to update because something changed in your industry, then that can be done, not having to exhaust some printing. And then just being able to get copies yourself, right, at any quantity. So for our clients, we're like, look, there's no reason for you to order a pallet of books to get a decent unit price. And I don't visit your house 10 years from now and find you still have half a pallet of books there. We just tell them, look, you order the 20 or 50 or 100 copies that you need. And when you need more, order more. And then if you're speaking someplace, you can just order those books and have them drop shipped to meet you there. This is something that is so wonderful, and lowers the barrier of entry into publishing, right? Because you just no longer need to invest in thousands of copies of your book to start putting it to work for your brand.
Yep. And everyone opens Amazon packages, so
they do. And it's funny, that's another. So let's add benefit number 17. Books get past gatekeepers, right? Not only do Amazon packages get opened, but they very often don't get opened by the secretary. They get opened by the person you actually are sending it to. So I think it's wonderful. It's a great technology, and I'm glad we can take advantage of it.
Last thing before we wrap up here, I actually was listening to Business Lunch with Roland, Frasier, Ryan Dice. Ryan's a client of ours. But Roland, with his new book with Jay
By the
Abraham.
way, if what you just said, I want to just highlight this for your listeners. Okay. Your listeners may not know who Ryan Dice is. Okay. That is your client. They need to know Ryan Dice is a legend in the online marketing space. And if Ryan is hiring Chris, you should hire Chris. Let me just say it that way. That's a huge badge for you to wear there. That's awesome, Chris.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So Roland and Jay Abraham just did a joint venture book together, and literally on their podcast, Roland's like, literally Ryan and Roland were having a conversation around like book launch strategies and how they're going to market their book and so on. Ryan's going traditional Amazon advertising and book funnel kind of setup so that they can get leads for their back end business, $10,000 projects and so on. It's going tremendously well, by the way. And then Roland's like, we're not going to do any of that. We're actually going to send 1,000 author copies a month to ideal prospects.
I love that. There's a story out there, and I heard it secondhand. There was a guy that actually wrote a book. He went through the whole process. He wrote down 5 names that he wanted to get his book in front of, and he wrote the book for those 5 people. And then sent copies to each one, and because he wanted to have meetings with them, and he got meetings with 3 out of the 5.
Wow.
And he wrote the book just for them. So to Roland's strategy there, if you had a list of 1,000 people that you went, man, if these people had my book, I could probably do some pretty good business. I think that's fantastic. And the cost isn't even that high. That's what's crazy. You think about, okay, so here I got this, this tumbler here. Okay. Right now people are doing branded tumblers to people, or a branded mug or whatever. Even a branded mug, is probably $5-6 each at least. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what about a book? You can put a book in someone's hands for probably around the same price, and it have authority and credibility and do so much more than ever a silly branded mug would do. And so, man, I'm all over that. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And, on the retrospect, just from an advertising perspective, if you were to spend that same money on ads, let's just say it's $6,000, you could probably expect maybe 200 book sales with advertising or in your own sales funnel. Like the trade-off is that you get the lead and things like that, but you're still getting 1,000 books out there for the same cost that you would generally get 200 people in your funnel. So I'll just
and if you're targeting the right people, it only takes one or two of those people to probably pay for the whole project.
Yep.
Right. So what if you closed 1%? 1% of the people that you sent those books to, and that 1% paid for the whole project. Number 2 is profit. Number 3 is profit. Number 4 is profit. You know, like,
well, 1% is that's 10. That's 10.
Oh, that's 10. Sorry, I was. You're right. A tenth of a percent. If you closed a tenth of a percent, you might pay for the whole project. That's
easy.
Pretty,
Easy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably with the offers that these guys have, like Roland and Ryan. Like, it's probably you'd probably make about double your money on 1/10%.
That's fantastic. Well, I mean, it's kind of like look at Russell Brunson and with what they've done with ClickFunnels, right? And they can afford to lose money like crazy on ads because they're going to make it back up on the offer. And not everybody has that, right? So that's not necessarily going to work for everyone. Not everyone's got that kind of a back end offer, but those are all things to be evaluated depending upon the brand and the offer.
Yeah. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation, Everett. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
So fun, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
So mypodcastperk.com will be linked in the description below, so everyone can go get a free copy of Everett's book. And thanks again for coming on.
Thank you.
Damn, what an awesome episode. If you've got a book that you're advertising or not yet advertising, and you want some book marketing advice directly from me, I'd love to set up a book marketing review with you. It's basically a 30-minute consulting session that you can get for free, worth $1,000, where we can basically dive right into everything that you're currently doing or not doing, and everything that you could do to sell as many books as possible according to your goals. So if you want to sell 100 books a month, 1,000 books a month, or anything in between, we can really help you outline a strategy to help you get there. To book your session with me, just click the link in the description below, smartauthormedia.com/chat, and you'll be able to book a time that suits you to go through everything with me so that we can help you sell some more books starting today. Look forward to speaking to you on the call.